Hello, everybody. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover today. When I say we have a lot to cover, I mean the Fire Safe Council of Southwest Escondido is presenting Rex Hambley in a disaster awareness presentation. It seems kind of like an oxymoron that you wouldn't be aware of the disaster that's going on, but Mr. Hambley has a lot of tips to tell us about how to become aware and how to use the options and applications that are available to the public to keep yourself aware. And with that, I'll give it to Rex Hambley.
Well, thanks for having me. We've got a couple presenters. We've got Jeff Murdoch. Where'd you go? He must have stepped out. We have a bunch of staff from Escondido Fire here that let us use the facility. And we have Ms. Robyn from SDG&E who also has a presentation. So we're going to go over, first off, the theory of what the fire intelligence is and how we go from just having data into making a decision to aid our escape from a wildfire. We'll have Ms. Robyn has a presentation from SDG&E, and then Mr. Murdoch will go over his favorite apps and programs that will have some overlap, and then we'll go after that, we'll go into helping you guys use those tools right here in the classroom today. So even if we only get one, we'll get a little bit of practice using those things. We've got internets, so we can do a demo up on the screen, and hopefully you'll walk out of here with one or two things. There's a bunch of experienced staff. We also have Mr. Thomas Schutz in the back, Community Risk Reduction Captain from San Diego County, and probably my favorite partner to teach with over the years. What's that? Yeah, we're gonna change it. I'm gonna adopt Mr. Jeff as my favorite teaching partner. We have two. There's a lot of special guests, but we have two special guests. We have Miss Hambley, my mom, who she came down to help out watching with my kid when we have a lapse in childcare, and then we have Professor Shi from Cal State, professor of theoretical algebra. She came to the Deer Springs course we did last year. There is public Wi-Fi. If we're gonna use your phone, take a minute and hop on that to save your cellular data. You don't have to. It's there. I think it's called PA. What was it? The network.
FH public dash
Okay.
public, and there is no password. Well, I only have two. So.
Thank you.
Okay. This, we have a gal that helped me develop this unit. She's spent a long time attached to a group in Naval Special Warfare. And she usually teaches this, but she's not here today. So, how many people have received a photograph from someone and they said, I'm at the beach, but in the background it was pointy trees and snow? Has that ever happened to anybody? No? Has anyone ever had someone send them a picture on the cell phone, or maybe they saw a picture on the internet and the description didn't match the picture? Yes? No? Just enjoying the snacks first thing? Okay. So you're already doing intelligence. You're doing photo intelligence. You're looking at the picture and the information that comes along with it doesn't match. So there's a lot of different fields of intelligence. We're going to focus on open source intelligence. And those are things that you can access as a civilian without special privilege. So you don't need a password or a government credential to access, and that's why we're teaching that today. All right. So intelligence is the synthesis of three things. So we have data, which is the raw sensor output. So Mr. Murdoch will go over some weather stuff. The sensor that's picking up the wind speed is just a value of 280 degrees that the wind is blowing, and it really doesn't mean anything until we turn it into information. So that goes from the sensor, we realize, oh, 280 degrees, that means something. And then if we combine that with there's a storm coming or there's a wildfire coming, we're like, okay, now we have turned that into intelligence when we act on it. Or if we had This morning, Mom said it's 42 degrees, or it's 40 degrees at the sensor where her phone pulled the weather. And so that was just raw data. Information means it's cold, and intelligence, she grabs the jacket when she walks out the door. Okay. The important thing to remember about this particular unit is that when there's an emergency, we'll likely get directions from the authorities. And they're gonna say, evacuate to here or evacuate now. Sometimes the fire environment evolves so quickly that we may not get that in time. And Mr. Murdoch and I had a conversation, one of his children, during the Lilac fire, they said, I think we should evacuate, but they hadn't received an order yet. So you remember, you don't have to wait to evacuate. You can take 2 or 3 minutes and go over some of these resources and make a decision before you're told to evacuate. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, this is in Ukraine, looking west into the border of Poland during the invasion. So what do you guys see in the photo right here?
Lots of people stuck.
Yeah, people have parked their cars, it's not moving. Okay, this is 2018 in the campfire in Paradise. What do you guys see in this picture? Yeah, similarities?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, traffic is jammed up. The first thing that I look when we were gonna drive up here this morning is the old traffic layer in Google Maps. That's my favorite. Some people use Apple Maps. What are the other apps that you guys like to use? Do you guys even use them? SigAlert. Yep, SigAlert's great. You can tune into some of the radio stations will say 15 is jammed up at Rainbow Valley Boulevard. So that's another way. What's neat about this is the information is so granular that the supercomputer that is processing all of your lives can tell which lane of traffic is jammed up. So if you were in Kiev and the Russians were coming from over by Jeff, and you were looking at this, what information could you gather from this map?
Everybody's trying to get out of town.
Okay, good. Yep, and where else would you have got that information to other than this map?
Being on the ground, stuck in traffic.
Okay, yep, and then maybe on the radio, they're like, the Russians are coming, the Russians are coming. Okay, so now we've got 2 data sources.
Big explosion?
Yeah, okay, explosions on the east side of the country. Yeah, maybe Babushka called and said, you know, they're bombing, you need to leave. Here's Kiev again. And you can see these people are westbound trying to leave the city. I don't know about the barrier here, but if I had my kid in the car, I'd probably be headed in the opposite direction on oncoming traffic. Not telling you to drive the wrong way, but it's an option, right? It might not be the best option, but it is an option. Okay, we are gonna skip this. This is infrared heat signatures from space. It's a public website, you can access it, but it's a little bit more technical than we wanna go into today. So in the long course, we'll go over it. Those are all fires from natural material, like wood or sticks or grass. The satellites can tell. This is a wildfire burning, and there's a legend here on how old this data is. So this burned first, now this is burning right now in, not today, but in present time that the satellite flew over. So we can infer that the fire is burning from west to east.
Do we know where that is?
That is outside of Palm Valley in northern Baja. So about an hour and a half from here. Not very far. If we knew, you know, if this was your home, if this was Deer Springs, we would find a weather sensor and we'd look at the data that comes out of the weather sensor, which way the wind is blowing. We could combine it with the infrared heat signatures, and we would start to synthesize that data into intelligence. And we would say, looks like in the next 12 hours it's going to burn, you know, over to Palma Mountain. Got a lot of blank stairs, but that's okay. It happens. This is one of the favorite ones. It works in your phone, in your web browser, on your computer. We'll do this one today. There is most of the fire agencies participate in a big computer system called Irwin. And it has a fancy name, it's Integrated Wildfire Reporting something. I am. So when the call taker takes a call, someone calls, I have a fire burning up the mountain behind my house. They get the information and they press go on the keyboard. It makes a purple dot on this map. There's about a 10-minute time lag, so it's not a 911 service. The firefighters don't get dispatched through this. But if you click on one of these purple dots, that's an emerging wildfire that's been dispatched 24 hours or less in time. So when we click on one of those dots, it will tell us what call center took the call, whose land the fire started on, if it was Forest Service or state. As the fire grows and gets bigger, it will get one of these little flame icons, and eventually they'll start to map the perimeter, and you can see how many thousand people are attached to the fire, and they start to populate various statistics on it, so you can start to get an idea of what's going on throughout the state. This is the same sensor data from the firm's website that we saw. It has an age, and if we, yeah, who uses a flight tracker? A lot of people. Yeah, this is one of the greatest ones. What do you think? Why would one aircraft be circling all day in one place? We have a ringer over here. Any guesses?
Fighter spotter.
Yeah,
Or a
yep,
fighter.
that's exactly it. So, this particular aircraft is one of the platforms that is called AirCAP. And they coordinate the aerial firefight and they coordinate the aircraft with the ground resources. So wherever they're circling is what's most interesting to that aircraft. So that would tell us that something is going on down there. It doesn't tell us what. We use them on floods, earthquakes, riots, wildfires. What are some other disasters that we could use them on? Super Bowl? I'm not joking. Yeah, so we have assets for Super Bowl or presidential motorcade. When you click on
Escape
the,
convicts,
what's that?
escape convicts.
Yeah, they've used,
Yeah.
used aircraft for manhunts. Yeah, there's 2 intelligence platforms, and they have really great infrared sensing capabilities. This is not one of those aircraft. So each time you click on one of these, it'll pop up this little thing on the left, and it'll tell you a little bit about the aircraft. It doesn't tell you what its job is, but if you do this a few times during fire season, you'll see the same aircraft come back to the fires, and then you'll start to get an idea. The flight path for the helicopters is going to usually be a straight line to where the water source is to where they're dropping. So you can start to tell there's something interesting for the helicopters. If we were to combine all of these things, we have 3 or 4 platforms of data. If we were to combine them together, we would see that they stack up. So that aircraft would be circling right in this area. And these are, the red ones are the freshest heat signatures. So they're the newest fire. The waves are going up to space and being detected. So we would see that the aircraft is circling over here. We would also alert California.org. Who uses the fire cameras in here? A few people. Yeah, there's several great networks. So we'll train on this one today. We're going really fast, but we want to make time to actually practice these in class. So that camera, we would see right there. We click on it, and that red triangle is the view shed. So that's what the camera is looking at through its little camera binoculars. And we would see that aircraft, on flight radar, this one right here, is circling in the same place that this fire camera is looking. So in the bottom, I know it's kind of washed out with the light. We could see that there's some significant wildfire down there. So now we have Google Traffic Map shows there's a pileup on the road. We've got heat signatures from space. We've got the flight radar. We've got alertcalifornia.org fire cams. How many pieces of information do you need to turn that into intelligence? And then maybe we've got an evacuation order from the sheriff's office or the fire department. And we combine all those things to decide, to vet the information that comes from the authorities.
I'd say 3.
3?
I'm guessing.
Sure. There's not really a right answer. this is all dependent on having a data connection too. So how many people live in a place that do not have cellular data at their house or cell phone connection? Anybody? Okay, yeah, in Quatai? Descanso, yeah, and we're teaching up at Palomar on Saturday, and a lot of Palomar doesn't have coverage.
They just use satellite?
Some people do, and some people just don't. Anyone use the California Highway Patrol public facing CAD? You do? Why do you use it, ma'am?
Because during heavy rains, Harmony Grove Road gets blocked and it gets flooded, gets closed.
Good. So 911 on a cell phone in California goes to CHP first, and then they route it to the whatever dispatch center, you know, if it's El Cajon PD or Escondido Fire, they get the call, but they'll make a note here, and let's see, this one says golf cart versus pedestrian. If it was a wildfire, they'll say, you know, small brush fire starting on the right-hand shoulder. And you can see maybe it's along Harmony Grove Road, hopefully not. But that's another piece of information that's available. There's all kinds of different weather apps. This one is very easy to use. So again, we get the data information and turn it into intelligence. How about Pulse Point? Does anybody use Pulse Point? Hopefully, we'll get some people to download Pulse Point today and use it. If I had to boil it down to one program, this is by far my favorite one. It's super easy to use. It was created for if you're at the mall and someone has a heart attack. It was created to link civilians to find automatic external defibrillators. And it worked so good that they added all sorts of things like car wrecks, wildfires as a public information tool. It costs money to buy into the program, and so your tax dollars are funding that service, so you should use it.
Really good.
And this comes out oftentimes before the bell rings in the firehouse. Everyone's, you know, Jeff and I would be standing around and, someone will get the noise, and everyone pulls out their phone. Who is it? Is it Hellfire? Is it?
Right.
And then usually, you know, a few seconds later, we'll hear the dispatch tones for the firefighters. Anybody use Watch Duty?
Love Watch Duty.
A lot of people like Watch Duty. It's an open source network, so it pulls from a lot of different data sources. One of the things we have to be careful with is there are retired firefighters and reporters. And we know that reporters often are, you know, they can be good and they can be bad with how sensational the information is. So this is not a vetted evacuation app. This is it's another tool in the toolbox. Just like the flight tracker doesn't tell you when to evacuate. We just add to our picture. Probably no one here uses Snapchat, but I use this in fire investigations on the US-Mexico border. There's places that we can't see with cameras, and it's too dangerous for people to go there because of the cartel activity, but people in Mexico will see a fire starting on the south side of Otay Mountain and other places, and this isn't Mexico, this is Oceanside, and 4 or 5 people will take a video and do it on their Snapchat, and it makes this is called a heat map. So the more activity, the hotter it glows. Anyone got any guesses what's going on in Oceanside? Something's going on.
I serve.
Good one. Yeah, it gets some of that southern swell because of the curve. Okay, that's not it though. It is a speed trap. So a whole bunch of people videoed it and posted it, and it made so much chatter on the computer that there's 2 cops running speed traps.
Secret's out.
Yeah, secret's out. So we did one for the Independent Living Association a few weeks ago, and someone asked, what can we do if we don't have data connection? So what would you guys do if you lived in a place with no cell phone coverage or no internets? The answers are on the screen. The senses are a great one. You actually step outside of your house and you see a big column of smoke, or you see deer and rabbits running through your yard and birds are flocking and it's out of season. That you turn your back and there's a big column of smoke. You hear sirens, aircraft activity that you wouldn't normally hear. Those would all be good ones. Jeff will talk about the National Weather Service, some of the resources that are available. Radio scanner, anybody have a radio scanner? I know at least 1 or 2 people do in here. Yeah, I know.
You can get them on your phone too.
Yeah, you can get them on your phone, and those are, yes ma'am.
Isn't a lot of the radio traffic now encrypted,
Law
so that you
enforcement.
don't hear it?
So all of our wildland fires, we can pick up on an $18 radio. This is a garbage radio. It is, at $18, it's less than 3 Starbucks coffees, which some people probably spent more of that on the way to this course. You don't have to have a license, but it will transmit on the fire frequencies, and you can really screw us up if you do that. So, take it to your ham club or your CERT club and ask them to program it for the scanner frequencies, and they can take out the transmit. Because you really don't wanna do that. You'll get in trouble, you could hurt somebody really bad. But this works without internet. It listens to our wildland fire frequencies, and it's a great resource to have. How do you,
I got this at home, I made this at home.
you made that at home?
I did.
Oh.
These are the really small
Gotcha.
cups.
Okay, so you can afford to buy an $18 radio.
Super cheap.
Yeah, they're hard to use, and you really need to talk to the ham club or the CERT team. There'll be someone in that knows how to program it.
Awesome.
And, it's a really nice thing to have, but don't transmit, because you'll get in trouble.
Correct. One bad thing about the pulse point scanner, pulse point audio, as well as some of the other online scanners, is they are just that. It's one radio that's scanning a number of frequencies.
Yeah.
It stops on an active frequency, so you may well miss information on a command channel or
Yeah.
where you're really listening. So,
Excellent
you know,
point.
the actual physical scanner is a much better if you need that input.
Yeah, when we scan, the CAL FIRE channel for a fire, it also scans the Forest Service. They're usually going to the same fire, but sometimes there'll be recreation people, like I'm moving to Corral Canyon Campground, and you're trying to hear the fire dispatch on the scanner, like, no, I don't need to know where you're going. How about green text and blue text for iPhones? Anybody know what this is? Okay, when you go iPhone to iPhone and you have a cellular data connection, it turns into iMessage, and you can send large files, and you can see when the other person is typing, and you can send all kinds of stuff. But oftentimes, in disaster, those data networks become overloaded and slow, and you can go into your settings and you can send it to regular, like if you send an iPhone to an Android, it's a green text. Ask your children and grandchildren to help you with this. It's one button to press in the settings. And during large-scale geopolitical destabilizing events, you will have better luck getting an SMS text message out. If you can get internet, you know, at the library or whatever, you can use your iMessage and just use a regular data connection.
I know on an iPhone, if you're not able to send, it'll try several times, and then it'll say send as text message, but by then, a lot of time has elapsed,
Yeah.
so.
The technology is evolving fast, and even I feel left behind, so don't feel bad, guys. That's it, so, Ms. Robyn,
Yes.
you're up, and then we'll have Jeff, and then we'll do a lab, so we can have go backs to any of those. Jeff has a lot of stuff that's gonna add on to this.
Good morning,
And-
everyone.
Good morning.
So, does anybody have the SDG&E Alerts app on their phone already? Okay, so you're familiar with it. It's a great app. It does touch on some of the other programs that Rex just showed us with our mountaintop cameras, weather stations, and so forth. So, I just put this here because cell phone wise, my kids had to show me where to find the apps. So on my Apple phone, obviously, we have that one, and on Android, it's a Play Store. I didn't know that, so thought I'd share that with you all. And then that's what the the app looks like. The app has a lot of different functions to it. One of them is public safety power shutoff. So Escondido, some parts of Escondido's, I think has been implemented with a PSPS. But Valley Center and those areas are more inclined in this backcountry area. But this app was created because of PSPS, and it's a really cool app. This top corner here is actually my house. I live in Descanso, so we are prone to PSPS. And so I can program in this app 5 different locations throughout San Diego County or San Diego service territory. Anybody that is a SDG&E provider or user, you can put in up to 5 locations. So say you have family members that live out in Boulevard and they are susceptible to lots of different PSPSs or multiple ones. You can be alerted on your phone that their power has been turned off. So when we live in the backcountry, we lose internet, cell phone, wells, all of those good things. So if you lose communication with a family member, this app here will tell you power has been shut off in a PSPS situation, not necessarily planned or unplanned, but a public safety power shut off. And down here it'll tell you, you could randomly look on windy days if there is the probability of a PSPS. You know, you'll be notified lots of different ways if you're signed up. But this will tell us if I look on a windy day and it says that we have no PSPS outage in my neighborhood or on my circuit, this is the location here. I just punched it in. And it will tell you, it'll give you that blue dot of what's going on in that community or the communities that you have programmed in your phones. And then this will also say, here's my meter right here on circuit 79 if there is a PSPS on this app. So it kind of it brings you right into your location. It brings you into the 5 different locations if you have them programmed into your phone. So it's a pretty good app to have. It's a lot of information. And it also takes you to our weather data. So I think most of you probably know we have meteorologists. They look at the weather constantly every day, 365 days a year. That's their job. But on this app also, it will tell you what our fire potential index is. If we're in the green, we're looking really good. If we start going into yellow and red, we start worrying a little bit. Ask Thomas Schutz over there. It'll also give us our relative humidity, so our wind speeds, and then our temperatures all the way from, you know, the coast to our last meter or our last line all the way out, you know, in Incupa. So it gives us a lot of information, and it's all just on a touch on that screen on that app. So there's a lot of good info, and then also we have all of these different links. So you can contact SDG&E just by pushing that link on this app. It will also take you in an emergency situation to 211 San Diego. So there's a lot of good info and a lot of good means in order to work yourself around the app, as well as it will take you to our weather stations. So you could look in Escondido. You can click on one of our weather stations. It will tell you the wind speed. It will tell you the direction. It gives you a whole bunch of really good info. And again, that's service territory wide. So we have 222 weather stations throughout our service territory. And every one of them will give you data, and it gives you real-time data. So it's a really good way to kind of watch what's going on out there, as well as the cameras. Rex talked about our mountaintop cameras. You can hit that link, and that link will take you to all the cameras in California, and then you can zoom into a camera that's in a mountaintop in Escondido, and if there's a fire, you could actually zoom in and see real time. So CAL FIRE takes over on those cameras when there is an active fire, but we do provide them on the mountaintops to be able to give that information and then really dial into any emergency situation that we may have out there. And I have a couple, let's see, Rex, I wanted to click on that link. I did attach a couple of videos.
The one on the bottom right?
Yeah, the restoration process is just a good little video that talks about what PSPS is. Is everybody familiar what public safety power shut off is? there is a process that we do within SDG&E when there is, a PSPS, and that process could be a long, grueling one, depending on,
Oh, God, sorry.
oh, you're okay. Depending on, you know, what the weather, what's happening in our weather. If the winds don't die down, we can't control, right? So the power gets shut off on public safety power shut off, but there's that process that we have to follow in order to turn power back on, because we don't know if there's been damage on the line, we don't know anything, we just can't turn that switch back on and hope that we don't have any kind of issues. So I just attached this video, if we can't play it.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
For you. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go.
As possible, but it's not as easy as flipping a switch. We do this in phases, specific steps that help protect our employees, our communities, and our equipment. As damages are being prioritized for repairs, there are also places that receive priority in having their power restored. Places like hospitals, nursing homes, police and fire stations, as well as water and sewage treatment facilities. After that, our crews will focus on the areas where they can get the most customers restored in the shortest amount of time. But this ultimately depends on wind and other potential fire conditions. Still don't see our crews on your street? Often, problems on one street are part of an even bigger problem, blocks or miles away. So just because you don't see our crews doesn't mean they aren't working on restoring your power. Once the lines or other equipment have been repaired and inspected and conditions are safe, power is restored. Even when you don't see us, we are working to get your power back on as safely and quickly as we can. You can count on us to expect the unexpected and be prepared to help keep you safe. Visit sdge.com/PSPS for more information.
So,
Nobody-
Stop.
living in Escondido, has any of you been impacted by PSPS? Okay. So, have you been to the wildfire safety fairs in Valley Center that we've put on every year? The last couple of years, anybody? No? Okay. That's where I met Denise and Greg. They are positive, advocates for our wildfire safety fairs, and we do put them on, and I do encourage, we will be in Valley Center in August, I believe, and I will share it with the fire safe councils out here once we, get the flyer, available. But it's 40 different booths of information, right? It's basically it's a fun day, but filled with important information on, we have resources from your local fire safe councils to CAL FIRE, Defensible Space, every program in SDG&E that's available that can help the community one way or another that we are impacting with PSPS, or now, not only PSPS, right? It's any weather-driven event is kind of where we are today. We just had heavy rains and we had tornado warnings and floods, and we're coming into summer with heat, and so it's a year round, and so these events are very educational. There's a lot of good information, but it's a fun day, right? We've got music and lunch, and it's a fun day filled with important information, and I can't stress that deep enough, because it's something that we're really proud of, and so we hope to see you guys out there. But is there any questions on the app or anything? Yes.
So forgive me if I ask stupid questions. So in terms of safety, right? So we just recommend that I just stay at home, don't go out.
I mean, everybody, you're always safest at home, right? And unless there is some kind of catastrophic issue going on out there to where home is not the safest place to be. But I'm not the expert on that. But I think it's where your comfort zone is, on where you feel you would want to be whenever a storm of some sort is coming down the path. So for me, I live in the mountains. I'm happy at home. I know that storm's coming, but I also know what my plan is, right? The most important thing that we all stress is have a plan. Know your evacuation routes. Know where you need to go if and when you need to leave that safe zone of your, for you and your family.
So you don't recommend that I drive to a place that has power?
I could probably.
Probably answer that better
Yeah.
than me.
So it depends on the incident, depends on where you're at. Excuse me. Sorry. So a lot of times, if we have to evacuate, for example, a PSPS, so for example, in my house, if the power goes off, it's not an issue for me, right? I have plenty of backup power and I'm fine. Other people have medical equipment and things, that's not an option for them. And so a lot of times, San Diego Gas and Electric will set up CRCs, right?
Community Resource Centers.
So where those folks can go to a place where there is power and there's snacks and there's water and things like that. So it really depends on you as an individual and how you're impacted by whatever's going on. So for example, if there's a wildland fire coming, I'd recommend that you leave. And I'm sure Robyn, if there was a wildland fire in her mountain house, would probably leave. But if a storm is coming, she understands how the flooding works, and she probably wouldn't leave. So a lot of things depend on your individual, where you're located, your individual condition, and then what the emergency services recommend that you do, right? So sometimes we will let you know, I didn't put it in my presentation, but we start talking about evacuation warnings, evacuation orders, and shelter in place. So depending on what the emergency is, say for example it's a hazardous material spill with a big purple cloud, we will tell you to shelter in place because we don't want you driving through that big purple cloud. Okay? If there is a fire 5 miles away but it's headed in your direction, we may issue an evacuation warning saying there is a fire, that you're not threatened yet, but you might want to start packing up just in case it does get to you. If it gets within a few miles or a couple of miles of your house or an imminent threat to you, we will issue an evacuation order which says you need to go now, right? Too late to pack, pick what you can grab and go. So we offer these things, but with those evacuation warnings and evacuation orders, we will also often tell you where a temporary evacuation point is or a shelter is. So when we say evacuate, we're trying to send you someplace that's safe, that has a restroom, hopefully some water, some people to talk to, those types of things. And I'm going to talk about notifications here in a little bit. But the answer to your question is, it really depends. And you'll have to make a decision at the time when you get that message, what you want to do, what you feel comfortable doing.
You now have
Understood.
a lot of resources to help you with your decision.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll be here, we have Laura in the back. She has a bunch of different information also, including programs that we have available to help the communities. And yeah, we'll be here if you need help.
Thank you, Robyn.
You lost my clicker, so we have to do it manually. So good morning. My name is Jeff Murdoch. My official title is Disaster/Emergency Preparedness Manager. I call myself Emergency Manager for short. My role is partly developing emergency plans for the city of Escondido. I'm responsible for the Emergency Operations Center, and most likely if you get an evacuation notice, it will probably be coming from me or the EOC, so I'll have my fingers in it. I also do a lot of public outreach, and we talk about how the city can prepare for disasters. So I've passed out for you a personal disaster plan, and basically all you need to do is fill in the blanks. Some of you may already have one. If you don't like English, I'm going to show you a website in a minute, radiosandiego.org, and you can get it in 12 different languages. So if you want to do it in Tagalog, that's totally up to you. If you have people that may need assistance, those with access and functional needs, I also have plans designed for them as well. And it's a little bit bigger pictures, bigger font. So if you need any of those, let me know. They also, SDG&E also has a number of them on the back counter. I try and do what we call whole community. So if you say, well, Mr. Murdoch, I'm sight impaired, I can't read those, I have Braille. So if you have anyone that needs Braille, I can get you a Braille one. So there's no excuses for not doing one, that's what I'm saying. All right. I'm also going to go through, as part of my presentation, a number of different websites. I've handed out this. This has a bunch of different connections. Robyn talked about the San Diego Gas and Electric website. They have a great amount of information, wildland fire preparedness information. You can access all the raw data from their weather sensors. But what I also like is that some of their weather pages actually summarize all that data for you. Because a lot of times you look at that raw data, it's hard. It's nice to see that big picture. So they'll show you where things are getting hot, things are getting windy, and where they can't be. So I would definitely look at their website. All right, so let me ask you a question. How long can you, whoop, this is gonna be fun. How long can you be without? I can let you fill in the blank. So the easiest one, how long can you be without your cell phone? I love it when I leave the house and I forgot my cell phones. Oh, so liberating. The problem is, I have to carry 2 cell phones, by the way. The problem is that the rest of the world is in a panic because they can't get a hold of me. So a lot of you giggle because a lot of you probably can't be without your cell phones, right? And I'll bet you that you probably carry a charging cable for your cell phone. You probably have a backup battery for your cell phone. So have you prepared for a cell phone outage? Yeah, you have. Right? Let me ask you another question. How long can you go without air? 3 days? 3 minutes, right? After 3 minutes, things start happening funny in the brain. How long can you go without water? 3 days. How many of you have a week's worth of water at home? Cool. How many of you have it in your car? How many of you have it in your office? Yeah, see, there's 2 of us, 3 of us in our office. So it's important that, if we look at this, the blackout, I won't talk about the blackout in 2011. The blackout in New York, right? A lot of those folks were either stuck at their office or they had to walk to home over the Brooklyn Bridge, right? For women who wear heels, were walking their stocking feet. So, sometimes it's important to have things not only in your car and at home, but also in your office. For our EOC, I have water, I have food, I have, all right. I have cell phone chargers. And our city manager one time tried to get out of an exercise. He's the EOC director because he forgot his glasses. I went, nope, here you go. I have readers. I am prepared. All right. So just a fact for you. This doesn't come from me. This is according to the Federal Emergency Management Agency that more than 40% of businesses never reopen after disaster. Wow. If you want an example of that, let's talk about Katrina in New Orleans. For those that do reopen, only 29% are still operating after 2 years. Now, these are the ones that aren't prepared, obviously. Those that have enough operation plans do a little bit better. So, is it important to be prepared? I would say so. So let's talk about information sources. The first thing you need to know is that there's a problem, okay? Most of you have probably done this, but if you do nothing else from this today, this is the most important thing, is to register your cell phone for Alert San Diego. How many people have a landline phone? I still do, I want to get rid of it. So if you just have a landline phone, congratulations. If there's a reverse 911 call, you will get it, because your phone is already registered for Alert San Diego. How many have registered the cell phone for Alert San Diego? Cool, you're also going to get the message. The rest of you? Maybe a policeman will knock on your door and say, let's go home. It's really important. This is how we do a reverse 911 to reach out to you to let you know that there's an evacuation or a shelter in place or some other emergency that we need to let you know about. Okay? The way you do that is you go to alertsandiego.org. And right here, if you go to the preparedness tab, you can go to register for emergency alerts.
Is that in your book?
It is in the book. Yes. The nice thing about this is those of you who have landline phones, you have to be at home to get that reverse 911 call, right? If I've registered my cell phone for alert, I can be anywhere. I could be in New York and I would get the call that my house is being evacuated. I call my neighbor, hey, don't forget to take my parakeet when you leave. You can also register additional addresses. So if you have kids in school, you can register the school address. If you want to do your work address. If you have an elderly parent you're taking care of or you're concerned about, you can enter theirs. And you will get that message even if you're not there. But if they're being asked to evacuate, you will know what's going on. So this is really, really important. Any questions on that? All right, there's a second form of emergency. There's so many emergency notifications. I'm going to go 2 today. This is called WEA. It's the Wireless Emergency Alerting System. It's on your cell phone. All new cell phones, iPhones, Android, Microsoft, This is actually transmitted at the tower level. So let's say that you are at the beach. You live in Escondido, you're at the beach, right? Well, if there's an emergency at the beach, you haven't registered the beach as your alert San Diego, right? I can send a message, or Carlsbad or Oceanside, I can send a message to a tower and warn you on the beach that there's a tsunami on the way and you need to move. Or you can go out and catch fish that's on the flock on the beach. If you turn these off, you can turn these off. The only one you can't turn off is the President of the United States, who will probably never, ever send you one. If he does,
Gonna turn it off.
yeah, you might, yeah, things aren't going well. So you're probably gonna get Amber alerts. You get your National Weather Service alerts through these. I know sometimes they can be annoying, but if you turn them off, I can't alert you. And what's also nice about this is that, say for example, you're driving up the I-5, or let's put it on the 101, and I'm sending out alerts to people on the beach. As you're driving up, I can set a time frame for that notice is valid for. When you drive into the area, you will get the alert, right? Even though you came into the area after I sent it out. So that's one of the really nice things about it. Yes.
I got woken up Sunday
Huh?
from the earthquake in
Yep.
Central. Where did that come from? It was some man screaming at me to take cover.
Yeah, that would be my
It scared the
shake.
shit out of me.
That would be my shake.
It did come from my shake.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so I'm going to talk about my shake here in a second because I got woken up twice as well and didn't feel a thing.
You have nobody else in the house whose phone went off,
Oh.
only mine, and I wasn't sure which app it came from.
They might not have it set up their
Yeah.
my shake yet. So my shake is where that comes from.
Question really quick?
Yeah.
So to the MyShake questions, that was a synthesized intelligence product that came to you, right? So someone, USGS took raw sensor data, they sat at USGS and turned it into information to mean something, and then they pushed out an intelligence product. So what we're going over today are ways that you can check their data.
Oh.
All the stuff that I went over, what Robyn went over with planned outages, what Jeff is going over. So you get a scary event like that, if, you know, we look outside and the fire's not knocking at your door,
Yeah,
then you can
yeah.
take a minute and we can go back and look at those sensors to actually see what's going on.
Okay. It was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I'm not going into a lot of USGS data, but I can quickly tell you that the United States Geological Society has all those seismographs all over the place. I have one in my house.
I wasn't sure which app it actually
Yeah.
came from.
But the way it works is that when that sensor senses an earthquake, it quickly makes a calculation on how strong it is. It turns out that the waves from an earthquake travel at a certain speed. Radio waves and electronics and phones travel at the speed of light. So they can quickly send that message out to phones in a certain area and let them know that it's on its way. So depending on how close you are to the epicenter, right? If the epicenter is right there, you're not going to get the notification. But if you're in Escondido, right, you probably have 30 seconds before that earthquake is going to get you, and you can actually take action. That's how that works. I'll show you real quick what that is. Also, I want to talk about Alert San Diego one more time. There's called Accessible Alert San Diego. If you have folks that are hearing impaired, they can sign up. When they sign up, they can click the accessible, and what will happen is they can get sign language. They'll be able to access the sign language, so someone actually sending them that way. All right, the next one I want to talk about is the San Diego County Emergency app. This will send you information about red flag warnings and evacuations and stuff like that. It's a useful app. They don't update it quite as fast as some other things that we send out, but it's nice to be able to go back and look at information. What I recommend people get it for is this segment, for the news, maps, and shelters. And the reason for that is that you can go to shelters. How many remember the Cocos Fire? Some folks may have gotten evacuated during the Cocos Fire. There you go. They were asked to go to San Marcos High School. And the reason they were asked, because the fire started in San Marcos. San Marcos had already set up a shelter, and it was only going to impact a little bit of Escondido, so Escondido didn't send one. We were sending them to the San Marcos High School shelter. A lot of them had no idea where it was or how to get there. Okay. If you come over here and you select shelters, it's going to create you a map, and it's going to show you where the shelters are. And if it's San Marcos High School, you can just click on it, and this thing will route you to the San Marcos High School shelter. What I tell people though is look real close, because maybe La Jolla has a shelter open, they might have better food than San Marcos. So this is a really good app to have. They are also currently testing earthquake notification, and also on my phone, my SD San Diego emergency app was showing a test. So if you're interested in this app, it's SD Emergency on both of the app stores, the Play Store and the Apple App Store. All right, MyShake. And I'm going to try and show a quick video.
Quick, drop cover, hold on, shaking expected.
Download the MyShake app to get a warning when earthquake shaking is headed your way.
Once there was a bull named Bill who felt.
If a quake of at least 4.5 magnitude hits California, MyShake users who are expected to feel shaking will get a warning.
Earthquake, drop cover, hold on,
That's what you
shaking
heard.
expected.
Children, there's an earthquake. Built by UC Berkeley, MyShake reminds you what to do in an earthquake.
Earthquake, drop cover, hold on, shaking expected.
Depending on how close you are to it, the alert may arrive before, during, or just after the shaking. Using MyShake will help scientists better understand earthquakes. Your phone will sense earthquakes and then send motion and location data to scientists. The more people that download MyShake, the faster earthquake research improves. But beyond getting earthquake alerts, MyShake gives you real-time information about quakes around the world. If you do feel a quake, let scientists and others know what happened around you, like where you felt the shaking, how much shaking you felt, damage to buildings around you, and road conditions. And discover what other people experienced during a quake. You'll also get tips on how to prepare, survive, and recover. MyShake runs in the background using very little storage and power. Are you ready? Download California's Earthquake Early Warning app.
Like I said, there's also the USGS that you can go to. I go there for the raw data. I look at the raw data all the time. You'll say, well, why are you interested in that information? Well, I'm interested in where certain earthquakes are, but how many remember the swarm of earthquakes we had at the south end of the Salton Sea about 2 years ago? There's a swarm of earthquakes down there. Everyone was concerned that it might set off the San Andreas Fault. Do you know why there was a swarm of earthquakes down there? You may not know this, but there's an active volcano at the south end of the Salton Sea. And that was lava moving underground causing all those earthquakes. Do you think I might be interested in that? All right. Where's the PowerPoint? There it is. All right, so there's another piece of information. Again, this is helping you be prepared. What should I do, right? They used to say recommend that you get up and get in the doorway, stand in the doorway when an earthquake happens. Do you know why they made that recommendation? In the 1800s, scientists went out to Central California where there was a major earthquake, and they went and looked at all the homes and noticed that the homes had crumbled. They were made out of adobe, and the only thing that was still standing was the door frame. And that was the recommendation. We don't make that recommendation anymore.
Today's Adobe are way different, right?
They're way different. Not to mention that depending on how strong the earthquake is, just the act of you moving from your bed or wherever you're at to get to the doorway will probably cause more damage to you than if you were to duck, cover, and hold on. Today's homes are built much better to earthquake standards, unless it was built before 1950-something. And you're more likely to get hit by flying debris than you are ceiling falling on you or other things. Although I have seen Japan where refrigerators will follow you around the kitchen island. All right, additional information from the city. The city is developing a brand new website. We're really excited about it. It should come out in April. That's why I don't have it up here right now, because the old one's been kind of locked for almost 6 months. And what we are able to do in the EOC is I can actually, in the EOC, bring up a banner on the home page that will have information about whatever the emergency is. about whatever evacuations, what our recommendations are, or even where to go to find out where shelters are. And so that's all coming. But other places you can go to get information is Facebook. We monitor Facebook very closely in the EOC for a number of reasons. It's intelligence for us, what people are seeing, what people are doing, what's carrying them. We also are able to handle rumors. Do you guys remember the Lilac Fire?
Oh, yeah.
Cal Fire set up a base camp at Kit Carson Park. We helped set that up. Me and our city PIO went down and took a bunch of pictures, and then we came back and we're looking at Facebook, and everyone's like, you gotta take water down to the base camp. You need to take chapstick. You need to take socks. They need these things. And so we were able to quickly get onto Facebook and say, look, here's a picture of the 5 pallets of water stacked 8 feet tall. They don't need water. However, if we do need something, and we appreciate your help, please check back here and we'll let you know if we need something. But a lot of times what happens during a disaster is people in good faith want to help, and a lot of times they actually create issues for us because we have to deal with all those donations. So we do need donations sometimes, but wait until we ask for them. You can also find us on Twitter. Here's some information websites. I handed those out to you. You should have those as well. Obviously, the Escondido Fire Department has a lot of preparedness information. The city of Escondido, ReadySanDiego.org has tons of information, including, both of these on there, as well as other information that you can get. 201 San Diego has information. FEMA has a lot of preparedness information. And of course the Red Cross, and I've also touted the great things about San Diego Gas and Electric's website. The company, no, I'm just kidding. Website's awesome. All right.
People are great.
I'm sorry?
The people are great.
The people are awesome, yeah. I've worked with them a lot on these apps that she was talking about. I called me in because I had some questions and I helped test them. And I said, I need actionable information. It's one thing to give out information, but if it's not something I can action or you can action with. And so with a collaboration, mostly on their side, but they were able to ask me questions. I think the apps have turned out really, really well. So I promised not to mention the 2011 blackout, but unfortunately I have to. How many were here in 2011, September of 2011, blackout, right? I had a lot of friends. They go, Jeff, you'll be so proud of me. I go, why is that? I knew exactly where my flashlight was. Went and got it right away. I knew. I go, cool. Didn't have a clue where the batteries were, but they knew what it was. A lot of folks, how many folks have a transistor radio now? Yeah. And so where were people getting information from, right? Kogo AM 600 actually has a contract with the County Office of Emergency Services to transmit information to the public during an emergency. And people were sitting in their cars to listen to their AM radio because they were using their phones. We use it for Spotify and Pandora and all those other things. And the cell towers were down, right? And if they weren't down initially, by 4 hours, most of the batteries of the cell towers had run out. So in 4 hours, you weren't getting any information anymore. And we were being told in the EOC that it could be 5 days before the power was restored completely. Fortunately, it was only 6 hours for most folks, but it could have been 5. So it's important to have some type of a transistor radio, a scanner, whatever, so you can listen to certain channels. I'd say a crystal radio set, but I'm not sure if I pick it up. Electric and gas emergencies, there's their number. Other disaster service information, 211, the county is usually using those. Please do not call 911 for information. I can't tell you how many folks called 911. Well, I just got this phone call. Am I really getting evacuated, or is that just kind of a maybe, or you know what? Don't call 911. If you want to, call our non-emergency number. There's other ways to find it, go to our website. But 911 is only if you are currently in some life-threatening situation. Questions? Yes, sir.
I got a couple. Number one is, it seems like in all these disasters, the roads get flooded with cars, and you end up in deadlock. And do you have any insight as when you decide just to park the car and hoof it out of there? Or are there suggestions on that? Because I think that's a likely scenario.
The best answer to that, and the hardest one to decide, is when to leave, right? I usually tell people leave early. It's a hard decision as to, you know, like for example, Hurricane Katrina. People were stuck on the way to Houston for a long time and running out of water, running out of gas. In 2011, people were stuck on the freeway and were running out of gas.
But we're mostly concerned about fire around here, so.
Yeah, and part of the problem is.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
Just a good local case study is we had the Cocos fire in 2014, right? Multiple fires going on in North County. Both were being were getting pushed out, and there were other folks who evacuated and were not in the path of the fire, and they were being held in place. And so, as I mentioned, if folks start running out of fuel, right, because they're not prepared, they haven't filled up their gas tank like they should. On the fire side, our expectation is 3/4 or higher, and so number one, try to keep your gas tank filled, especially when we get into the deeper summer months, red flag warnings, that kind of stuff. Take those precautions, but know that you're typically safe once you get to the main corridor. You're typically safer in your vehicle, even if you're stopped and not moving. The folks who have died in these previous fires, and even locally in 2003, were on the ancillary roads trying to make it out to the main drag. When you're on the main drag, you're typically going to be safer than if you were to pull your car off and just start walking. You can hit the recirc button, keep that airspace safe inside of your vehicle. We're clearing all these emergency corridors for the main areas coming out. So if you're out on Center City Parkway and traffic's completely jammed for days, you're not gonna burn up on most parts of Center City Parkway, because there's just not gonna be enough fire to catch your vehicle on fire unless it starts getting super gnarly, which is not the typical case. So I would say you're usually safer staying in your vehicle. Law enforcement is filtering folks out and trying to get people to safety. But if you're on a main road and you're stopped, you're typically gonna be safer staying put.
So there's 3 points on top of that I want to make with that. Number one is if you abandon your vehicle, it's now an impediment to emergency vehicles. And then if you look at the Paradise Fire, people went to Alviera Middle School to pick up their kids. The fire was coming right up to the fence of the school. Kids were going out in the field and taking selfies with the fire, like right there. Parents grabbed their kids and ran and left their cars in the middle of the road. We couldn't get emergency vehicles through. So number one is try not to abandon your car if you can't. Try not to abandon your car if you can, stay with your car. Number two is sometimes you're gonna find that you're at an intersection, right? And the sheriff's department, and they're directing traffic, and that traffic's going, and you're like, I've been here 15 minutes and I haven't moved. When are you gonna let me go? It's 15 minutes later, you're still sitting there and he's going, because the fire is there and he knows he's gotta get all those cars out. There's no threat over there. So sometimes you may sit for half an hour in a spot just because there's no threat to you and there's a threat to somebody else and we're trying to get them out. Okay. Third point, I'm gonna go back to Paradise Fire. I was actually there. Paradise Fire, south of Palomar Airport Road. If you guys are familiar with Carlsbad, south of Palomar Airport Road was on fire. Apartment buildings burning, grass, things, all kinds of stuff going on. North of Palomar Airport Road, nothing's going on, except for one thing. All the employees are looking out the window, watching the fire south of Palomar Airport Road. What did the business owners do? You're not doing anything, go home. Where did all the people go? On the Palomar Airport Road, which was our major evacuation artery, and clogged it up. We have since worked with those companies and said, listen, if you're not threatened and we haven't evacuated, please keep your people there. Don't let them go out on Palomar Airport Road and then clog it up where we can't get people out. So sometimes you might get blocked because people are leaving early. So if you don't have to evacuate, please don't, unless you feel threatened. If you ever feel threatened, by all means, even if you haven't gotten the warning, I think Rex mentioned that, if you ever feel threatened, by all means leave. There's no reason not to, okay? Kind of running out of time, but interesting story. Years ago, my wife and I had a home in Corona, right at the mouth where Green River comes out, and there was a wildland fire out there. And she calls me. We'd only had the house for 6 months. She worked in Anaheim, I worked in Irvine. And she says, there's a fire in the canyon. What are we gonna do? I said, we're gonna go out to dinner and have a really nice dinner. She thought I'd lost my mind. What are you talking about? I said, well, it's gonna take us 3 hours to get out there because there's only one way out there. And when there's a fire, traffic's terrible, so 3 hours we're gonna sit in traffic. And if we get there and we find our house is burned down, okay, there's nothing we can do. If we get there and our house isn't burned down, so why don't we go out and have a really nice dinner, spend 3 hours, traffic will be gone, we can drive out there, and if our house is burned down, well, that's the last really nice dinner we're gonna have for a while. If it's not, we'll go home, go to bed, and yeah. So, think about if you feel threatened or there's a worry, try and stay out of the area if you can, so that the firefighters can get in and do what they need to do. Remember, we gotta get emergency vehicles in and we've gotta get people out. If you're in there, you're one more car taking up one more space. So I'm not sure that answered your question, but it's kind of a depend, listen to the radio, listen to what you're being told, and then make a good decision. Did you have you said a second question?
Yeah. The other question was, how long does water stored in plastic bottles?
Depends on where you store it. And it used to be, if you stored it in the back of your trunk of your car, you could probably get 6 months out of it. And now they've gotten to that really thin plastic, and I couldn't answer that question. If you keep it in a nice, dry, clean, humidified place, you could probably go a year.
Depends on how thirsty you are, really.
And yeah, how many plastics do you want to swallow? But you know, there's other types of water that you can get. You know, there's box water, canned water, other things other than, there's 30-year water. So I have bottled water and I have 30-year water. So for some reason, I either drank too much of it and I don't have enough, I still got this 30-year water that is already there, that I almost never touch. So, just wait a minute. You had a question?
Well, I think when people feel threatened, they feel afraid, there's a fire, you feel like you wanna do something, right, to make yourself ready. But what I'm hearing you say is gather information, use your apps, get as much information as
Correct.
you can.
Correct. Collect that intelligence, right? Make an informed decision. Okay. Cool. All right. I still have a few more slides. Pulse point. I guess we're kind of go walking into the workshop. Has everyone downloaded Pulse Point onto your phone? Okay. So some of you have set up for Escondido. All right. So there's a couple of things that are neat about Pulse Point and Escondido is that we, obviously, whenever there's a structure fire, your phone will ping. You can set your phone up to ping for structure fires or wildland fires if you want to. You don't want to listen to all the medical calls because we get so many medical calls. The other nice thing is that you can also listen to the fire call. Okay, so when there's a fire or a structure fire or there's a wildland fire, you can actually hear how that fire is particularly going. We transmit that information through the app. There's a little speaker at the top corner that you can get. The other thing that we do here in Escondido that I think we're the only ones I'm aware of so far in San Diego County, at least North San Diego County, is that we actually are able to send out messages to people that are following Escondido. So if you click news, CERT, or disaster, I can actually send a message to either one of those. I use it a lot for my CERT team. And so what will happen is it'll ping on your phone and it'll say CERT, and maybe we'll do a test with that sometime in the next hour. We'll try and show how that works. I'm gonna go through weather real fast. You've all seen this, I hope. This is real basic weather. It summarizes, it is the basics. What I want to show you is some additional weather, again, to make those good choices. So this is a graphical hazard weather outlook. I like this one a lot because it helps show people when the National Weather Service says there is a tornado warning. What do you think? I'm sorry?
Same voice.
Same voice, yes, the same voice. So you have a tornado warning. What do you think? I have seen people go white as a ghost. And the tornado is nowhere near them. It's important if you were to come over to here or some of these others, you could actually come and say, okay, high surf. All right, well, I know that right along here there is no high surf. I can actually see along Carlsbad, San Clemente, Oceanside, there is going to be high surf. If I want to look at other weather, so for example, I use this quite a bit during the tropical cyclone Hillary. So I can find out right now there's no tornadoes anywhere. Wind, where's it going to be windy? Well, it's not going to be in Escondido. How about fog? Any chance of fog in Escondido? Actually, there is. You know what? This morning there wasn't. Now there is. So excessive cold, blowing dust, it changes based upon like lightning. There's not going to be lightning, no thunderstorms. It just kind of depends on what might be possible. And so this is a great way of seeing a graphical representation of where that information is versus just that textual information that we saw just a minute ago. If you're interested in knowing what it's going to be by hour, this is a graphical one of hour by hour. And you can see what the relative humidity is going to do, what's the precipitation potential. I didn't go out very far on this, but if you would go out here further, you would see that when we get into the weekend or Monday of next week, it's going to be a lot worse. This one's just a little bit different graphic. Here's the outlook. Severe thunderstorms, not expected. Excessive rainfall, not expected for the next 3 days, right? Here's what all the temperature, wind direction by time for Wednesday for today. So if you want to know what the winds is going to be doing at 3 p.m. because, you know, you got a picnic going on or a photo shoot, there you are. You can see animated, these are the actual satellite photos, and there's a lot of them. There's even ones used for fire temperature. You can actually go to actually see the raw data that Rex was showing you guys earlier if you want to see what it looks like on the satellite itself. The most important one, the one we hear the most, is Santa Ana's. This is the Santa Ana Wildland Fire Threat Index. It will tell you what the potential for a Santa Ana condition is. And have I looked at this and seen this all the way up here in the dry with strong winds and high and extreme Santa Ana conditions? Yes. So you can actually go here and actually see, I heard Santa Ana's. Well, it turns out sometimes they're light, the fuels are moist, so you know the threat level is probably no rating or marginal, even though we have Santa Ana's coming. This is a great way of giving you that information so you're not going, it's a Santa Ana, I have to batten down the hatches. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Questions on any of these weather websites? Yes.
On the Santa Ana,
Mhm.
do you use the map to ID the area that you want to keep an eye on?
So when you go back to the other ones, sometimes they'll have what's called, NOAA has what's called fire weather.
Okay.
Or fire threat, and they'll highlight that on that map. This one here just tells you basically by county, like this is LA and Ventura. If I want to go San Diego,
Okay, there it is.
and I can just pick what the different ones I want, and you can see for the week at a glance that there's no threat for Santa Ana's.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So just real quick, when I talk to the public, learn about community alerts and warnings. Having the information, knowing something's coming is half the battle. The sooner you know, the sooner you can take action, right? Take some training, practice skills and personal plans. A lot of times people write it down, but they never practice it and find out, oh, I can't really get out my second story bedroom window, right? Not because this doesn't open, because I'm a little too round. But, you know, I'm not suggesting you go through the window. I'm trying to make sure you can get through the window. Build an emergency kit, and share information with others. Share what you learn. That's what's great about Fire Safe Council. It's an opportunity to share information amongst everybody. Report suspicious activities or safety issues, and volunteer. A lot of times you learn so much being volunteer. CERT team, Fire Safe Council, fire support volunteers. There's a lot of opportunities and a lot you can learn. So as I exit out of here, just a reminder that 95% of all rescue performed in times of disaster and national emergency are performed by spontaneous rescuers. That's you guys, you helping your neighbors. City of Escondido has 7 fire stations. We have 7 engines. If there's a major earthquake and there's a problem, how soon do you think we're going to get to you? Probably not very fast. Mutual aid, we've got all these other, well, guess what? They're dealing with the same thing. They're not doing it either. Even if we brought in more firefighters, some of them are coming from Murrieta, downtown San Diego, Carlsbad, Escondido. How fast do you think we can staff up our reserve engines? So it's important that you be prepared, not only for yourself, but also to help your neighbors during that time. All right, just to show you that I actually practice what I preach, this is me. I'm flipping burgers using solar. We are a zero carbon company. This is actually our CERT picnic. And so for years they'd been using barbecue grills, and I said, well, I'm going to show you how you can do it without it. So I served 30 people flipping hamburgers for them, and also hot dogs. So all it is I'm talking about, not only is it possible, I do it on a regular basis. And I should show you a picture of last Thanksgiving, but for later. All right, there's my contact information.